Hey everybody, Chuck Niemer here, and welcome this Saturday morning to episode number 2 of I Don't Want to Wait 48 Years. The topic we're going to hit today is called PDC or TET. Do you PDC or TET? And what we mean by that is, do you plan, direct, and control, or do you teach, equip, and trust? So today we're hanging out at a Starbucks in Western Wisconsin. You can kind of see by the background here while my wife's at her quilting event, and 11 degrees outside, feels like 5 above, snowing outside and a little bit windy. So we're hanging out in the requisite red supply chain sweatshirt here. So let me share what we're talking about here and where this comes from. I'm going to share the screen here and give you a little bit of history on where this whole thing came about. So area wise, where I'm looking at is over here in the blue in the leadership area. But we're talking about a strategy and approach. We're not necessarily talking about a specific skill or trade here. Where this comes from, let me stop the share here. Where this comes from is a company I worked at in the late 1990s called Rael Precision, REELL, Precision Manufacturing here in Minnesota, still around, ESOP company, founded by, made rotary motion devices, clutches, hinges, things like that. Folks that founded it were three gentlemen who came from 3M. So I don't claim to have created this at all. But one of their philosophies was, do you plan, direct, and control people, or do you teach, equip, and trust? And it was something we always wrestled with as leaders of our departments and in the company, et cetera. And our first reaction, of course, was always, of course you want to do TET. You always want to teach and equip people and trust them to do it. And the response we got back initially was, well, not necessarily so. There's a time and place for planning, directing, controlling. And of course, one of the obvious examples was, well, if there's an emergency in the building, you have an obligation as a leader to direct and control people. Normal day-to-day work, of course, there's still a place for PDC. If someone is brand new to the work, to the company, to the situation, you will probably find yourself leaning more towards planning, directing, and controlling with an element of moving folks towards teaching and equipping so you can trust them as you go along here. So in the main, yes, you wanted to work towards teach, equip, trust, but we need to understand the context of where we're at. So what I'd like to bring up here is the document that we use. This goes back, honest to goodness, 25 to 30 years now, but it's still as valid today as it was back then. And like I said, this is a document that we created at the time and from my time at Rail Precision, but it's always served me well from a leadership. So I'll comment on the reading while we're going through it. You can certainly do the reading yourself, but teaching was a process. We wanted people to get perspective. Okay. So it was a process we went through. We wanted people to get context, perspective, awareness, and we're teaching values, concepts. Interesting enough, life philosophy and relationships. Very much a strong belief that our lives, personal as well as professional, were intertwined. Can't always separate themselves. And as well, teaching on those industry supply chain related theories. It's teaching instruction, which could be lecturing as an example, how we operate and behave as leaders, and the experiential part. And so the hope is that if we do this as leaders, people will get a sense of confidence about various areas. And at the same time, it will intrigue them enough to want to continue to grow. So that was the, philosophy behind the teaching. And we as leaders had to determine what that was for our areas. So the idea behind it in general is what you see here. If we understand what our purpose is, why we're doing what we're doing, we teach the technological part, the people skills that will give people not only the skills, but the commitment and the awareness of what's going on around them and what we're doing and why. The equipping part, you see that here in the middle here. Let me take this down a little bit here. Okay. So the equipping part, measurable and unmeasurable. Okay. There's specific things we can do with teaching people to use ERP systems, planning systems, quality tools, etc. There's equipping by teaching people. Let's coach you. Let me walk with you. Let me mentor you. Putting processes and systems in place. Very much a fan of what Deming talked about back in the day. About 95% of the time, the problem's process, not people, certainly. So building the systems and the environment, the surroundings, the physical location, etc. So that was the equipping part of it. And if we did that well, then we had a sense of, confidence in ourselves. We're doing things right. We're excited about what we're doing. We're committed to what we're doing. So there was the teach and equip, and then the trust part, which is always an interesting one. Like you see here, perspective, positivity, confidence in another person. What we talked about. I'm going to work backwards on this one and start at the triangle down below. I know you're probably reading on top, and that's cool. But I'm going to start on the bottom and then work back up on top here. So we argued there was three parts to trust, and you need all three. Competence, can you do the job? Okay. Faithfulness, do you keep your promises? And honesty, are you fundamentally telling the truth and being transparent about things with folks? And we argued you need all three. And if you think about it, and it's not in any specific order, it's just how I drew it on the chart here. You need all three simultaneously. But, if you think about it, you need all three. I can be competent, I can do the job, I keep my commitments, faithfulness. But if I'm a liar, you're not going to trust me because you don't know what to believe. Similarly, if I do the job, I'm honest, but I don't get my commitments met, I'm not faithful on the commitments I make, then you're going to be looking over your shoulder, wondering if things are going to get done. And of course, the third combination, I can keep my commitments. I'm honest, I'm transparent, but I'm not capable of doing the work. I'm not competent. You're not going to trust me either. And to give you an example of the last one for myself, it's, I'm not a mechanical person. Love supply chain, love manufacturing, but you don't want me on the production line. Okay. So I'm honest, I'm faithful, but I'm not competent. You're not going to have me on the production line because you're going to wonder what I'm doing. So that's why I always stayed in the administrative staff part, leadership part of things. I can be competent in my leadership skills. And again, if I teach and equip the employees to do it, I'm going to trust them. And I'm kind of staying in my area, so to speak, to support other people. So what that involved then, what it ended up being, if you look at my situation, people had confidence in me because they knew I wasn't trying to be something I wasn't capable of being. So it's confidence in another person, and folks were positive about it. I would get teased about it, certainly. We'd have fun with it, but they recognized I stuck with what I'm good at and supported them. It built respect. When you've got that respect and honesty, people are willing to take the risk to come forward and speak to truth and honesty and not feel scared. And a lot of us don't have that environment back in our work. We're afraid of the penalties that can occur. So if we have trust, we can encourage people to take risks, knowing that if there's a failure, it's like, okay, what do we learn from it? How do we pick up the pieces? How do we go about fixing what happened? It makes very freeing environment for us. Okay, not instantaneous, not automatic. There's always a measure of trust that's given to us by being hired, by being human beings, but we have to build upon it and we have to earn it. It's not the whole 9 yards given to us right off the bat. So, like it says, a lot of the building of trust comes from our experience with a person or a situation. And so it comes through honesty, faithfulness, and competence. So that's what I want to challenge you to think about, not just while it's a leadership section, all of our work. when is it appropriate to plan, direct, and control? When should you teach, equip, and trust? What's your plan to move towards TET? And I'm saying that with an assumption that that's where we want to go, because for the most part, most people don't want to be told what to do all the time. Um, and we do want to move people towards their own ability to stand on their own 2 feet. So let's teach, equip, and trust them. I'd also make the argument, and love to hear your thoughts in the comments on the channel about if companies are going to scale, if we're going to grow, even if we're staying where we're at, if we're going to stick around and respond to the need to constantly change change and adapt, we're going to need to teach and equip and trust people to take the initiative in the moment, because in most cases, there probably will not be the time to run it up the organizational chart. We're going to have to trust, the people that are there in the situation. So I think it's going to be a necessary part of your future. So that's today's video section here, and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback and start a discussion on it. If this is a sheet that you're looking for, feel free to let me know in the messaging and how to get it to you. I'm okay, if you wanted to do a screen print off of this one. And again, I want to reaffirm, this is from a company I worked at the late 1990s, called Rail Precision, REELL, manufacturing in Vadnais Heights, Minnesota. Company's still going, very successful. Have a good day from Minnesota.